Take the conversation this morning to South Africa, where a new witness is expected to be called to the stand when the Senzo Meyiwa trial resumes in the High Court in Pretoria today, Monday. The defense counsels for the 5 accused concluded the cross-examination of the state witness and Meyiwa's longtime friend Mthokozisi Thwala on Friday. 5 men are accused of killing the soccer star at his girlfriend's mom's home in Vosloorus in Ekurhuleni, east of Johannesburg, in 2014.
Now, Thwala was present at Kelly Khumalo's parental home on that fateful night. On Friday, defense counsel Advocate Zandile Mshololo accused Mthokozisi Thwala of lying about the presence of intruders the night Senzo Meyiwa was shot and killed. Now, joining us is Ben Malusi, I beg your pardon, is a legal analyst based in Gauteng. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Great to have you. The Senzo Meyiwa trial, of course, continues to be more intriguing every day. Can you give us quick updates on what all of these accusations are about? And of course, that one person has been accused here of lying to the court.
It is very, very interesting because I think we are faced with a narrative that says there are 2 intruders that came in based on the witnesses' statements, and we have a second narrative which is pushed by public opinion that says there were no intruders. Therefore, the people or the person that killed and shot Senzo Meyiwa is a person that was in the house. Now, if you remember very well, the issue that we have at hand here is that we have a very good judge presiding over this particular matter. He's a retired judge. He's been brought in to deal specifically with this case. And prior to that, we've had a state prosecutor in the name of Ekurhuleni, who has got a good record behind his CV for prosecuting high-profile people. And he has given us a narrative that there's a mastermind, and therefore everybody's thinking now is directed towards this particular narrative that there is a mastermind, there is somebody who masterminded the killing of Senzo Meyiwa. We still have to prove that because all evidence needs to be tested within a court in trial.
All right, it's taking 9 years. The case is still ongoing. The killing happened in 2014. This is 2023. Is this usually the case when it comes to South Africa's judiciary system in terms of unearthing and digging deep into what really happened? And would you say that the justice process or the courts have been up to speed in how they have prosecuted this matter?
I think it's unfortunate that it portrays that image in the sense that it's taken the state so long to first bring in a set of suspects who are then going to go through the whole process in being found out either whether they're guilty or not. But it's not the case within the South African judicial system to take this long. I think this was a very special case where there is also a slight suspicion of that there was some tampering with other evidence or the crime scene. And therefore that makes it a bit more difficult for the officials, especially from the SAPS, the South African Police Services, to gather information that is required either in DNA form or in people that saw what really happened to bring it up front, because there seems to be quite a lot of that is hidden from the public.
Yeah, Paul, and that's a little scary. You're talking about facts that are currently still being hidden. Do you think that there, maybe still needs to be more investigation, more arrests, carried out, in the wake of this? Because if we remember the Thabo Bester story, even after he was arrested, more people were brought in, more people were interrogated, more people have been arrested. So, do you think the prosecution has done a good enough job in the Senzo Meyiwa case? And this is the best that we can get from them.
Look, I think it's a good comparison that you bring forward, the Thabo Bester matter. Remember, in every law, in every country, there is statutes that lead that particular country, or a way that things get prosecuted and get brought into court. Now, we have to also be aware that in the Thabo Bester case, there were accomplices, people that helped him get out of there, and those needed to be identified, and the state needed to prove beyond reasonable doubt that these people were indeed part of that particular process of him escaping jail. In this case where Senzo Meyiwa now is the only person that can wake up and tell us that who shot him, we have people who are now either not being honest about what really happened on the day, or are being very selective in how they actually present the events of that particular day. So the more investigations that we are speaking about would be in reference to either the case that is currently being run, which is case 636, or a new case gets opened where all the people that were in the house become then suspects, and that will be case number 375. So there's two dockets that are running in here, which I think that's where the biggest confusion is, to say, what are we prosecuting on? Are we prosecuting on current people that are brought in front of the justice system, or are there other suspects that are sitting in a separate case, which is 375? Remember, we cannot have the two cases running concurrently because the crime committed is the same in both cases. So it brings about what we call a case within a case, to say that we are waiting for this particular case to come to a judgment, and if this case doesn't come to a judgment, then 375 gets activated, and all the people, including Kelly Khumalo, the people that were in the house, can then now be treated as suspects.
Last week we had reports of what happened in court as his friend Thwala shared and recounted his last moments. Got really emotional, and we did see him tear up. And would you say that, unfortunately, it's been many years later, is the story still generating the kind of emotion and interest that it should from the people of South Africa? What we see in a number of justice cases around the continent is that in the instant where it happens, everyone is emotional and sad and everyone's talking about it. But in another few years, the steam dies down and it's almost like they've moved on to the next trending matter. We saw that happen as well with Thabo Bester. There was a lot of noise for the first few weeks. That was the conversation. We haven't heard as much about it in recent times. Would you say that that steam is still there, and that the people of South Africa are expectant that sooner than later this matter will be concluded to a just end?
I think the one thing that we need to correct from the South African public is to come up with a public opinion with regards to who is guilty and who should go down. We have a narrative, we have a public opinion that says we want X person to be found guilty because either we don't like that person, or either we feel that this person is being honest with this country, or with the fans of Orlando Pirates and the fans of Senzo Meyiwa as the South African national goalkeeper. So, and you touch on a very, very beautiful point, a valid one too, to the fact that South Africans are very hyped up in situations where a case is brought up and things are brought up and evidence is brought up, and we all get hyped up, but we don't see the end of that. We don't see the same energy going right till the end of the case. For example, if you look at the case of Thabo Bester, it's died down because nobody talks about it as often as possible. And now it's all the Senzo Meyiwa case. So it's bringing back a 14-year-old emotion, which I find very strange, because for 14 years we've been sitting and doing nothing about it, and now that it's brought up, we have the energy, the same energy that we want to show. But I just want to also touch base with you and let you know that it's going to be very intriguing to see how the state runs with this. Remember, the law says that we have to bring witnesses or evidence that is beyond reasonable doubt in front of the court, so that the court can help or can be helped to come to a decision. At this point in time, I don't see any of the witnesses that have been brought on board to have given enough evidence for the judge to come with the case, to come with a judgment, my apologies. Because I always ask the question, if we had to close the case now, who is going to be arrested based on the evidence that has been provided? And at this point in time, we don't see anybody being arrested at this point in time, because the evidence is far-fetched. And the people that are in the house are not even in sync with what they are saying.
So who then is to blame in this scenario, and in scenarios similar to this? Are we saying that the prosecuting authorities are not doing proper investigation. We do know how when it comes to cases of, cases brought before the court, with the slightest incompetence, it can be thrown out, even when, it might seem that this person did it. But if you cannot prove beyond reasonable doubt, and if there are technical legalities or illegalities here and there, it could make you lose the case. So who would you say, where would you say the blame lies? Would we say that the prosecution is not doing enough in gathering sufficient evidence to be able to support its case?
I think we need to be very wise and careful how we tread along that line, because we're not privy to the kind of evidence that has been provided or shown in court. It is what we hear and what we see on a daily basis when there's a new evidence, there's a new witness that is brought up to come and testify, and then we realize that there's new evidence. I'll give you a typical example, and I'm going to come back to your question now. On Friday, we only found out that one of the investigating officers, Colonel Gininda, has actually said the gun that was used in this particular crime was a revolver. But the evidence that has been brought into this particular case says that the gun that was used in this particular commission of crime was a pistol. So such evidence gets brought in only on request, and so we as the public are not privy to what is in those files. So it's very difficult to say we blame the state for not doing their investigations, or we blame the defense attorneys for not asking the right questions until such a time that we get given or get privy to what they have as information. So at this point in time, we are still going in a situation whereby we've heard certain witnesses speak. We are now comparing what those witnesses have said as opposed to what the next coming witnesses are saying.
All right. And I think you can finally also just quickly comment on those who have been trying to cancel Kelly Khumalo, of course, stop her from making music and stop her from performing. Do you share similar sentiments, or, is she innocent completely until proven guilty and she should be allowed to continue to make music?
Putting me in a bad spot right there, man. You want to hear my opinion?
Absolutely.
Look, it happened to other artists in South Africa where they were blamed for, or they were arrested for certain criminal charges. You speak of Big Zulu, you speak of Lady Zama putting out claims that she was assaulted or sexually assaulted by one of the artists, and that artist was taken off the charts and was not given any opportunities to perform or to take part in any event that would have given them an income, a source of income. I believe that Kelly Khumalo is not different from any of those suspects because of those artists. Sorry, because she is also part of this so-called Senzo Meyiwa trial, and therefore she cannot be having her bread buttered on all sides until such a time that this is cleared, and then the communities or the public will have a different view and maybe accept her differently. Personally, I would say stop her.
Well, we wonder, you've said stop her. We wonder what the people of South Africa think about this, but we certainly will be following up with the updates. We'd like to see what happens in courts today. And we hope that we do not see an end to these stories being just swept under the carpet, like we're not hearing a lot of updates about Thabo Bester. These cases need to be spoken about, and we need to keep shining the spotlight on them. But thank you so much for joining us with your time this morning.
Much appreciated. Thank you for having me.
Right.